What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video, and today we are filling out Joe Lunardi's updated bracketology. Came out yesterday, I believe Tuesday, January 7th. So what we do here with this series, one of my favorite series to do here on the channel, you guys love it as well, we take Joe Lunardi's bracketology that he made and we put it into a PDF here and fill it out from the first round all the way to the national championship game based on what I think would happen right now. Sometimes they're not the most logical picks. Yes, I do put logic into some of these picks, but you have days like today where I just did one of these about a week and a half ago. So I feel like doing an updated one, but I feel a little bit upset happy. Like, I want to pick some upsets and have a little bit of fun with it. Like, yes, they are going to be some of my serious picks, and they're going to be I'm always going to have my national champion as a team that can win the national championship. Not going to have, SEMO win the national championship. But I do like to have some fun and pick some upsets. So we're going to do that maybe a little bit more than we would on other days. But it's hard with this bracket. I was looking it over what I wanted to do with it. And, man, a lot of these favorites, a lot of the top-seeded teams just look really good. And I know those really good teams always get upset anyway. But, yeah, so don't get upset at me, guys, if I pick your team to get upset in the first, second round. I'm just feeling a little bit upset happy. It doesn't mean that I think your team is ass, okay? So subscribe if you guys are new. Drop a like if you guys enjoy. We do a ton of college basketball content here on the channel. You don't want to miss it. We're getting closer to March Madness conference play. We're into conference play. So there's good basketball on pretty much every night. So make sure you guys subscribe. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into our first matchup. Speaking of SEMO, I guess that's why I said that. Auburn versus either Southern or SEMO. Auburn is the top overall seed. 100% should be. I believe last night against Texas, they just picked up their 7th quad 1 win. That was on the road. This Auburn team is just playing amazing. Whether it's Southern or SEMO, I'd say Auburn beats them by at least 27 points. Next up, we got Clemson versus Ohio State. 8-9 matchup. I really like this 8-9 matchup. And I really like Clemson in this matchup. I think Clemson is a really good team. They're returning some players like Ian Shefflin and Chase Hunter from last year's team that made the Elite Eight. I think that they're more experienced than Ohio State. I think they're the better team than Ohio State. They're more consistent. Yeah, they've had some struggles here and there on the road, but they've been really consistent this year, and I think that they might be the second best team in the ACC right behind Duke. So, give me Clemson to move on to the next round. Next up, we got Gonzaga versus Lipscomb. To be honest, I'm surprised to see Lipscomb in here as a 12 seed. I haven't been keeping up with them. That's a team that I definitely need to keep my eye out in the mid-majors. So I am going to pick Gonzaga, but if I'm sleeping on Lipscomb, let me know down below in the comment section. I was looking at 12 seeds. They definitely seem like the weakest 12 seed in this bracketology. So let me know. I'm definitely going to do my personal own research on Lipscomb after this video. That was surprising to see when I was looking at this bracketology, but Gonzaga is really good. They got 3 really good centers in Braden Huff, Ben Gregg, and Graham Ike. Very, very good front court. That might be the best front court, like, as a group in the country. And yeah, they've been disappointing at times this year, but overall they've been pretty good. And I have a hard time believing they're not going to win the West Coast Conference and steamroll through it pretty easily. Their toughest team in that conference, and it's always been, is St. Mary's. So we'll see as we go along the season. I thought Gonzaga was going to be a championship contender. I don't know if I can see them winning it all anymore, but we'll see. Gonzaga, I got them past Lipscomb, though. Memphis versus Troy, a 4 versus 13 seed. I'm surprised to see Troy in here out of the Sun Belt. But, it was Arkansas State there for a little while. But I think the Sun Belt might be up for grabs. It always seems to be somebody random coming out of that league that's not usually one of the top teams. I feel like the last few years it's been the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, but I'm not going to pick Troy. I'm going to take Memphis, even though Memphis did lose to a Sun Belt team this year in Arkansas State. I think that Memphis is a really good team, and they have maybe the best backcourt in the country. I mean, there's so many good guards in college basketball. It's hard to say that for sure, but PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter definitely have to be in the discussion. And then you got Colby Rogers, who is underratedly so one of the better three-point shooters in the country. And you got yourself a squad. You know, Dane Danger down low. He's got some fun footwork in the post. I like Memphis here. I think that they got a tough draw for a 4 seed, to be honest, to be in a region where they're most likely going to have to face Gonzaga in the second round and Auburn in the Sweet 16 if they get there. That's a pretty tough draw, but I do like Memphis over Troy here for sure. Wisconsin versus St. Bonaventure. I feel like, you know, St. Bonaventure, they're a good team in the A-10. I don't think they're better than Dayton. But, I don't know, they're just not battle-tested yet. They're not battle-tested. They didn't play that tough of a non-con schedule. No doubt in my mind, they could definitely pick up a win in March Madness, make it to the second round, maybe even the Sweet 16, go on a little bit of a run. But I'm just not sold on them completely. I know what I'm going to get from Wisconsin for the most part. John Tunji has been the surprise transfer of the year so far in the entire country. I mean, he has been amazing, and they got some other really good guards on that team as well. I like Wisconsin. I like what I've been seeing from them. I liked how they were playing against Rutgers the other day. I was watching that game pretty closely. Wisconsin was shooting the ball really well, especially in that first half. Give me Wisconsin here to move on past St. Bonaventure and avoid that upset. Next up, we got Kansas versus Yale. I don't like that he has Yale coming out of the Ivy League. I like Princeton, you know, maybe Columbia, but they kind of got exposed recently. I like Princeton. If this was Princeton, I would actually probably consider to pick this upset over Kansas. Kansas just isn't playing the best right now, and I know that they just blew out Central Florida by about 135 on the road, and maybe they're back, you know, we'll see. I think they play tonight, actually, on Wednesday night as I'm recording this video, so I'll have to tune in for that. See if they are back. But even in that game against Central Florida, you know, some of their transfers, Rylan Griffin started hooping a little bit, but guys like AJ Storr just haven't showed up this year. And that's kind of what we were counting on when we were all projecting Kansas to be the best team in the country this year. These transfers like Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr to really, you know, play great. And, you know, Zeke Mayo's done that. Zeke Mayo has been their best transfer pickup this year by far. He has been phenomenal. Hunter Dickinson's playing pretty good. KJ Adams, you know, probably digressed from last year. So I just don't know what to make of this Kansas team. I think, you know, you're going to get good play from Hunter Dickinson, especially in the tournament. I think Zeke Mayo is going to be good for, you know, at least 16 to 18 points in the tournament. He's going to have the ball a lot. He's going to be their main scoring guard. And then, you know, DeJuan Harris is a great playmaker. But, yeah, I just think the depth that we thought they had just isn't looking good. But I do think that they do get past Yale. I mean, Yale got a tournament win last year. They don't have Danny Wolf anymore, but they do have, what is that guy? John. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name, but it starts with a P and ends with a ski, S-K-Y. I'm pretty sure. He's a really good guard, though. So I could see them having a little bit of March magic, but I really do think that Princeton is the best team in the Ivy League, but I am going to have Kansas move on past that. So that sets up, you know, a rematch from, or not a rematch, but, you know, a revenge game for AJ Storr, you know, assuming he's getting more than 5-6 minutes a game. Utah State versus North Carolina. I really like this Utah State team, man. They're playing really well right now. They got him as a 7 seed. I think in my most recent bracketology, I had him as a 5 seed, but, you know, you go a couple of days and all of a sudden your bracketology is outdated because somebody loses, somebody wins. So I'll have to update that here soon. But Utah State, feel really good about them. I don't feel like North Carolina should be in the tournament as of right now. I don't think that they've been playing good enough. I don't think that they have the resume for it, and although they did play a lot of quality, good games, quad 1 games, they've been losing them. I feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like they should be in at this point. They could get there for sure. But I'm going to go with Utah State on the sole reason that I don't believe that North Carolina should be in the tournament right now. But I will say Ian Jackson has been playing awesome the last few games, and North Carolina probably will end up making the tournament. And if they do, they can beat Utah State. I probably would pick them to beat Utah State if this was my actual bracket and I was for sure wanted to pick who was going to win. I would like the matchup there for North Carolina, but I'm picking Utah State because I don't think North Carolina deserves to be in the tournament at this point. But they'll probably get there. Florida versus Akron. I just don't think anyone in the MAC is that good this year. I actually think the Ohio Bobcats, who are 8-7 or something, are maybe the best team in that league, which is crazy. Yeah, the MAC conference isn't very good. Give me Florida to beat them. Florida is really good. And talking about Memphis's backcourt, Florida's backcourt is elite. And they also are a very good offensive rebounding team. Even against Tennessee yesterday, they were offensive rebounding outstanding. I mean, they destroyed, really got the belt out, bent Tennessee over, and smacked them with it about 8 to 10 times. But yeah, that was impressive. Even on the road in Rupp Arena against Kentucky last week, or on Saturday, on the road, they were offensive rebounding really well. I think, yeah, Florida has shown me that they're definitely legit. So let's go ahead and go through, finish this first region off. So we got Auburn and Clemson. I think Clemson can put up a little bit of a fight with them. Ian Shefflin is going to be playing really hard against Janai Broome, playing some good defense. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop them. I don't think they're going to be able to stop this Auburn offense where they can almost make through Janai Broome on some cuts, on some kickouts. They have so many good shooters. It's absurd. Give me the Auburn Tigers to beat the Clemson Tigers. Tiger and Tiger crime. Gonzaga versus Memphis. Bulldogs and Tigers. Tigers again. Wow. Okay. 3 Tigers in this little, foursome up here. But Gonzaga and Memphis. I really like Memphis, man. This is a battle of guards with Memphis and front court play with Gonzaga. Gonzaga has good guards, and Memphis has good bigs. Gonzaga has a really good guard in Ryan Nembhard and a really good forward in Battle. He's really good. Nolan Hickman, he's a little more on and off. I think Gonzaga has the better overall team, and Gonzaga with Mark Fewes made how many Sweet 16s over the past so many years? It's ridiculous. They almost always make the Sweet 16. I think this is the best team Penny Hardaway's had since he took the job at Memphis. And I've been saying Memphis, I really want to make sure that they get to the Sweet 16 in my bracket because I think this is the year Memphis goes to the Sweet 16. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Memphis. I think Gonzaga might have a shot in that. Gonzaga definitely has a shot. I wanted to go with Gonzaga. My brain was telling me Gonzaga. My heart was telling me Memphis. I want to see Memphis, and I said I was going to be a little bit upset crazy. This region's hard to do. I mean, Florida, Kansas, Memphis, Gonzaga, Auburn. Those are your top 5 seeds. It's hard to pick against them. But wait till we get to these other regions. I'm feeling a little upset, happy right now. Wisconsin and Kansas. I am going to, however, take Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's playing better than Kansas right now. And, yeah, give me the Badgers to the Sweet 16, man, because I just don't think Kansas is playing that great. I don't think that they're playing that great. And their defense hasn't been that good, I'm a West Virginia fan. I mean, obviously, look what I'm wearing. But the way that they were going about guarding West Virginia when we played them in Allen Fieldhouse, that was pathetic. Kansas defense was pathetic, and I think they fixed that a little bit against Central Florida. We're going to see as the season goes on, but right now I'm going to take Wisconsin over Kansas, and I feel like Kansas fans, you can't even be mad at me about that because, listen, y'all's team is underperforming right now. We'll see if they pick it back up, but what we're seeing now is not the preseason number 1 team in the country. Utah State versus Florida. I want to pick more upsets, but Florida is playing so good right now. Give me Florida. I feel like Walter Clayton Jr. is one of those guys who can just have his team go on a run, man. If he can get hot from the 3-point range, could we see like a Carson Edwards type run when Purdue went to the Elite Eight? Only didn't go to the Final Four and possibly win the championship because the year Virginia ended up winning that championship, and they only beat Purdue off of a crazy buzzer beater that had them go to overtime. One of my favorite March Madness games of all time, by the way, Purdue-Virginia Elite Eight 2019. But Walter Clayton gives me those vibes where he's just going to lead Florida on a run, and they got the team around him to do it. Boy, do they. Auburn and Memphis. 1 seed versus 4 seed. Unfortunately, this is where Memphis's run is going to come to an end. We saw this matchup happen in the finals of the Maui Invitational, and I think that we see a similar outcome here in this one. Wisconsin versus Florida. I'm going to go with Florida. I think Florida is just playing at a really high level right now, especially offensively, with Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, Will Richard has been playing awesome. Like I mentioned, the offensive rebounding, especially from Condom, they've been killing it. I really like the Gators. Give me Florida. And we got an SEC battle in the Elite Eight, a really good one. And I'm pretty sure we'll see this, through the regular season or the SEC tournament or both. I hope so, because it's going to be a really good game. I am going to go with Auburn at this point. Auburn is just playing like the best team in the country. They have been all season long. It would be a crime to not have them at least in the Final Four. Let's go down to this region so you guys can get a look at this bottom half, what teams are in, what the matchups are looking like while we fill out this left side here. Duke versus Marist in the 1 versus 16 matchup. Give me Duke. Duke looked amazing against Pitt yesterday. Cooper Flagg had an insane poster. But Duke's defense is what carries this team this year. I'm so surprised and impressed with the way Duke has played defense this year with all these freshmen and new faces. It has been very impressive, but they have the length, they have, the athleticism to play that defense, but credit to John Shire for, getting them to be able to play that defense. That is really what is carrying this team. Give me the Blue Devils to move on. Maryland versus Georgia. I feel like this is an amazing 8-9 matchup. I love this matchup. I am going to go with Maryland. I know that Georgia just upset Kentucky last night at home. I think Georgia's a good team. I expect them to be in the tournament, especially after getting that big win. That's going to help them a lot. I like Maryland in this one. They've been at a low right now. I expect them to pick it back up. Derek Queen is one of my favorite freshmen. And I also really want to see that storyline of Derek Queen versus Cooper Flagg in the tournament. They were high school teammates, both 5-star recruits. That would be fun to see. 2 of the better freshmen in the country. There's so many good freshmen this year. It is so awesome. This is really what college basketball needed, is all these young stars. But yeah, Maryland, I think that they have a good team. Not only is it Derek Queen, they have a good front court with him and Julian Reese. And they also have some good guards and some good shooters that are really starting to step it up. Mostly from Jacoby Gillespie. But I like this Maryland team. I got to see the Terps in the second round after getting past Georgia. UCLA versus UC San Diego. We got to talk about UCLA a little bit here because Mick Cronin, he was going off in the press conference yesterday after losing at home to Michigan by about 72 points, 72 and a half, something like that. Yeah, he was calling his team soft. He was calling his players pathetic and delusional. If you haven't seen that interview, definitely go check it out, because it definitely makes me not want to pick UCLA, because, they have a good defense, according to KenPom, but Michigan just hung 90 on them, and UCLA was the home team. I don't trust them. UC San Diego, they've been more consistent. And that is not even joking. UC San Diego is a good team, and they've been more consistent of a team than UCLA. And I'm pretty sure they play UC Irvine later this week. That's going to be must-see TV. Mississippi State versus Grand Canyon. I kind of want to go with Grand Canyon here, because even though Tyon Grant Foster and this Grand Canyon team has not been, what we expected to this year, I still think that they are going to turn it up in March Madness. But you guys know I cannot pick against Chris Jans, Josh Hubbard, and this Mississippi State team in the first round, because I really like watching Josh Hubbard. And they've only overperformed this year. And Chris Jans always comes to play in March Madness. So I got to pick Mississippi State at least to get out of the first round. Pitt as our 6th seed versus either Arizona or Texas. Arizona looked amazing against my team, West Virginia, last night. And I was very impressed. I'm going to have them beat Texas for sure. KJ Lewis is an absolute X factor for that Arizona team. They actually have some really good depth. And, I'm not the biggest Caleb Love fan. I'm just going to say that. But, he can hit some big shots and be that closer for you as long as his shot is hitting. However, against their matchup against Pitt, what was up with Damian Dunn last night smacking smacking Tyrese Proctor right in the dick? Like, what was going on there, man? At the end of that game, Pitt versus Duke last night. If you guys seen that, let me know. But that was crazy. Is he going to get suspended for a game? I don't know. But you got Damian Dunn. You got Ishmael Leggett. Both guys who can create for themselves. Jalen Lowe. Really good players on Pitt. Really good guards. Yeah, I think this is a tough one. This is more of a 50-50. But I'm going to go with Arizona here to get past Pitt. I don't like Pitt. And Arizona looked really good last night. They looked really good this whole week. A road trip to Cincinnati and West Virginia, going 2-0 in that. That's impressive. And KJ Lewis was really impressive to me. I hope that was a breakout game for him, and he continues to do well. Oregon versus Northern Colorado. I really like Northern Colorado. I've actually been able to watch a couple of their games in full this year. I do think that they come out of that league, but I can't pick against Oregon here. Unfortunately, I want to pick more upsets there, but I can't go against the Ducks. Give me Oregon. Oklahoma versus Louisville. This is actually one that we've seen already in the finals of what was that? The not the Maui, but the Battle for Atlantis tournament, in Oklahoma won. I'm going to go with Oklahoma again. I don't like that we have all these rematches here in the first round, but sometimes you got to have them. Louisville could take that, but, I'm going to go based on what we've seen already. Kentucky versus UNC Asheville. This Kentucky team seems like a team that's actually built for March Madness. I'm not going to lie. Kentucky's had some really disappointing years in March Madness, losing in the first round, including last year, losing to Oakland. That was rough. But this year's team is different. Kobe Brea is the best three-point shooter in the country. That alone can get you really far in March. You get that type of guy to heat up, and he was doing it for Dayton last year in the tournament. Let's not forget. Kobe Brea was doing that in the tournament. So not only is he the best shooter in the country, but he has experience in March Madness. That can get you pretty far, and they have really good players around him. Jackson Robinson is a do-it-all kind of guy. Lamont Butler is a really good point guard. You got guys around him that can really shine, but I think Kobe Bryant is the main reason Kentucky's going to go on a run this year. I'm going to take Kentucky to the round of 32. Duke and Maryland, like I mentioned, Cooper Flagg versus Derek Queen, high school teammates. That would be really cool to see. I am going to take Duke here. I think they're too good defensively. I think this one's going to be, within 10 points, but I got to take the Blue Devils. UC San Diego versus Mississippi State. I want to pick, a little bit of a run here. I like UC San Diego, so I'm going to go with them over Mississippi State, even though I don't want to pick against Josh Hubbard, who is so much fun to watch. Very underrated freshman from last year. He was one of the best. He's back for his sophomore year doing it again, and I don't want to pick against Mississippi State, but UC San Diego is a really good mid-major, and stuff happens in the tournament. Cinderellas happen, upsets happen, even to really good teams like Mississippi State, so I got to pick UC San Diego here to move on. I think they're a really good mid-major, and I feel like they got a decent draw for a 12 seed. I'm not going to lie. Mississippi State's playing well, but I feel like UCLA is a beatable team. Mississippi State, if they're playing really good ball, they could definitely be beatable. Arizona, Oregon, old Pac-12 battle here in the round of 32. Okay. I kind of want to pick another upset here, actually. I think I'm going to go with Arizona as the 11 seed from first four to Sweet 16. Beating Texas in the first four, beating Pitt, and now beating Oregon. I think this Oregon team is pretty good. Nate Brittle is pretty good center. He can actually stretch the floor a little bit. Really good rebounder. You got some guys on this Oregon team, but I think Arizona might actually have more talent. They're starting to heat up. If these two teams were to play today, I might pick Arizona. That's where I'm going off of. It's going to be dependent on who's hot going into the tournament is huge. So I'm looking at which teams are hot right now. Arizona's red hot. Oregon, not so much. They were hot in the, towards the beginning of the season when they beat Alabama. They were starting to go on a little bit 10-0 start. Arizona's hot right now. Give me Arizona. Oklahoma versus Kentucky. I'm going to go with Kentucky. I know that they just lost to Georgia last night, but they're a really good team. It's tough to play on the road, especially in some of the better leagues like the SEC. It's tough, man. I like Kentucky for reasons I mentioned earlier. I think that they're going to go on a run this year, at least to the Sweet 16. Duke versus UC San Diego. We are going with UC. I'm just kidding. I want to go with UC San Diego to upset Duke, but Duke is, the best defensive team in the country based on KenPom. So, and it shows. In their games, it shows. It really does. Duke is an excellent defensive team. I'm going to go with Duke here to the Elite Eight, and I am going to go with Kentucky to to beat Arizona. I just think Kentucky is the better team. I think Kobe Bryant is the best shooter in college basketball. He's going to help this team. So many good guards, such good depth on this Kentucky team. Give me the Wildcats to move on. Then we got Duke versus Kentucky. We saw this matchup earlier in the year. Kentucky did win. That was on a neutral court. It was an excellent game. The first time, I think it's going to be an even better game in this Elite Eight matchup. It wouldn't surprise me if it comes down to overtime or a buzzer beater or both. And I'm going to go with Kentucky again. I think Kentucky might be one of those teams. They have Duke's number. I feel like they can execute offensively even with the tight, tough defense that Duke plays. And they showed that in the first matchup. I believe they put up over 80 points in that game. I like Kentucky in this matchup. I got Kentucky to the Final Four out of that region. So we got Auburn and Kentucky, two SEC teams. We'll see if we got any other SEC teams to join them as we get into this region, which I will warn you is going to have a lot of upsets. And first off, we got Tennessee versus Youngstown State. And Tennessee is just, they're a good team. And I'm not going to lie, Youngstown State, I thought about picking that upset. And it's not because I think Tennessee stinks, because I do think that I've never had them as my number one team in my weekly rankings. I never thought they were the number one team. I did have them at number 2, even though I maybe didn't think that they were the number 2 team either. But I never had them at number 1. But I do think that they are a good, consistent team that usually does beat teams that they are supposed to, and I think that they would get past the Penguins here in the first round. I thought about going against that and taking Tennessee to lose, but they're a good team, man. And Chaz Lehner, great shooter, underrated. He's a good player, man. I think Tennessee, they're well coached with Rick Barnes. They beat teams that they're supposed to usually. I got to take Tennessee. San Diego State versus St. John's. This would be an 8-9 matchup for the ages. I mean, these two teams would be going at it. A lot of really good guard play in this matchup. A player I really like on San Diego State is Miles Bird. Super good player. Super fun to watch. He's going to be a pro for sure. He kind of reminds me of a player on the Johnnies, Kadar Richmond, a little bit, except Bird's probably a better shooter. I like San Diego State in this matchup. Towards the beginning of the season, I was actually pretty high on St. John's. I was liking what I was seeing from them, especially after the Baylor game that went to double overtime, that they probably should have won, if Zuby Ejiofor would have made a couple more free throws. But I think San Diego State's defense and, that's a good team. They've had experience. Give me San Diego State here to move on. Michigan State versus Bradley. I'm not going to lie. I'm picking Bradley. I'm sorry, MSU. I actually would like to see Izzo get back to the Final Four. I don't think this is the team. I don't think this year's team is the team that he makes a run, and I'm pretty high on Bradley. I wouldn't love the matchup for Bradley. I think it would be a very tough game to win. But I do really like Bradley in the tournament if they can get a good matchup. I think Bradley has some really good guards who are seniors, and they play in a really good mid-major conference. For being a one-bid league, the Missouri Valley is a really tough conference. You got Drake, Bradley, Indiana State, Northern Iowa, Illinois State, some really good teams in there. I like Bradley, man, and maybe this is finally the year Tom Izzo gets upset in the first round. Let's predict it. Why not? I don't think the team is that great. I know Cohen Carr is super good, super athletic. You got some other guys in there. They're more of a collective group, and it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan State's in the Sweet 16 again. Not at all. In fact, when we get down to my actual bracket, depending on how things are looking, I might have that in my bracket. But right now, give me Bradley. Houston versus Samford. Houston, talk about teams that are white hot. Give me Houston. They're playing excellent right now. They have one of the best defenses in the country. They're just playing really well. 3-0 in the Big 12 play. They just beat TCU. TCU was giving them a little bit of trouble in the first half, but then Houston went on a run, never looked back. Michigan versus either Texas Tech or Penn State. Texas Tech versus Penn State. Penn State has some pretty good defense as well. Ace Baldwin's there, playing pretty well. But Texas Tech, I'm going to take Texas Tech in this one. I think Texas Tech's a really good team. They just beat BYU on the road last night. Then I'm going to take Michigan over Texas Tech. I think Michigan is a really good team. They just beat UCLA on the road by a lot. Looked really good. Vlad Golden had 30-some points. Danny Wolf is super fun to watch. A point center. I talk about it all the time. That front court right there is going to be tough to beat, especially when we get to March Madness. And their coach, Dusty May, has been to a Final Four with Florida Atlantic. I think he knows what he's doing whenever he's coaching March. And yeah, I think Michigan's going to be a problem during March Madness this year, especially in the first couple of rounds. Then we got Texas A&M versus UMass Lowell. Give me Texas A&M. Texas A&M, a good team. There's so many good teams this year. It's almost ridiculous. It's so hard to predict some of these games. Texas A&M, Wade Taylor, he's got some experience. They got some other guys like Henry Coleman, who's got some experience. Like Texas A&M made it to the second round or the Sweet 16 last year because they had that crazy comeback, where Garcia hit the buzzer beater to force overtime against Houston last year. They end up losing that game, I believe. But wow. Buzz Williams as well. I feel like they're due for a run. They get a tough draw here to face a 6 seed Michigan. The 6 seeds are tough this year, as at least for now. That's going to be a really good matchup. That's going to go down to the wire, Michigan, Texas A&M. Ole Miss and Cincinnati, that could be another one that could go down to the wire. Cincinnati is playing awful right now. They just got blown out by Baylor hard. I mean, it is so depressing. I'm so sorry for Cincinnati fans. Is Wes Miller like a terrible coach? Let me know down below. Yeah, even the Arizona game, they came back and made it close at home. They didn't look good in that game. They didn't look good. I'm just saying, and then on the road, they can't win on the road. Are they going to win any road games against any quality Big 12 teams this year? I don't know. I like Ole Miss in this matchup. Marquette versus Central Connecticut. Central Connecticut, that's actually a pretty decent 15 seed. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pick them. Marquette's too good. I mean, they beat Georgetown barely last night at home, which was surprising to me. But I feel like almost Cam Jones has to be a little more selfish and take more shots because he doesn't. And I think he's going to have to start doing that if they want to go super far in March Madness, because they have some really good defense as well. Underrated defense from Marquette. And they Chase Ross, super fun. He's having a breakout year. Ben Gold. What's that guy's name? Can't think of the other guy's name, but they have a really good squad, guys. And I think for Marquette to go far, though, Cam Jones is going to have to be a little bit more selfish because he's really emerged as a playmaker this year. That's good. Keep that. But when you get to March Madness, especially crunch time, Cam Jones has to take over if they want to go far. Tennessee versus San Diego State. San Diego State is a team that I could see beating Tennessee, but I am going to have Tennessee make it to the Sweet 16 because I've been having Tennessee lose early in about the second round, in my last couple brackets. So I want to switch it up a little bit because they are a good team who can make it at least to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or even the Final Four. I don't think that Tennessee can win the championship this year, but I think that they could be a Final Four team. So I'm going to give them some props here and get them to the Sweet 16. Bradley versus Houston. I feel like Bradley got such a shitty 12-seed draw here because they have to face Michigan State and Tom Izzo in the first round, and then they have to face Kelvin Sampson's Houston team in the second round. I just don't see it happening. As much as I want to see Bradley go on a huge, massive run, they got a horrible draw. I mean, it's a tough break. Sometimes that happens to a really good mid-major team. It's tough as a 12 seed. Any draw is going to be kind of tough, but this one's just really tough. Houston's really hot right now. I got to take them, man. I got to take Houston. Michigan versus Texas A&M. I teased it a little bit. This is going to be like a fantastic game. This might be an overtime type game. I'm going to take Michigan, though. I like Michigan. I like the way that they're playing right now. Like I said, this front court is going to be a problem when we get to March Madness with Vlad Golden, Danny Wolf. That is going to be very tough. And I like Michigan here in this one. Ole Miss versus Marquette. I'm going to go ahead and take another upset here. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss, Sean Padula, who seems like he's been in college forever from Virginia Tech, is Ole Miss's point guard. Playing pretty good. I feel like Ole Miss has a good team all around. Chris Beard finally getting back to the tournament. Let's see if he can do what he was doing before all the allegations and the lawsuits and whatever happened at Texas, and go back to what he was doing, which was making Sweet 16s and living in the Sweet 16 or further. He made the national championship game with Texas Tech, let's not forget. Next up, we got Tennessee and Houston. I am going to have Houston win this matchup. They're just playing really well right now, and I know that earlier in the year they weren't winning big games, but they were pretty close against Auburn. They went to overtime with Alabama, and they went to overtime with San Diego State. Those were their 3 losses, so I think that, they are battle-tested, and they're playing really well right now. One of the best defenses in the country. Give me Houston to move on. Then we got Michigan versus Ole Miss. Dusty May versus Chris Beard on new teams in March this year. And, wow, this would be super fun. I feel like matchup-wise, Michigan looks really good with the front court matchups here because they have a big like Danny Wolf who can stretch the floor. I think that's going to be huge in this matchup. Give me Michigan here. There we go. And I forgot the I. There we go. Michigan to move on there. And then we got Michigan versus Houston to make the Final Four. So, another super good matchup and a harder one for Michigan in this Michigan's front court. Because not only, do they play through their front court, but that is because it's not just inside-out game that Danny Wolf is so good at playmaking at, catching in the post, kicking it back out. He can do that and be that playmaker for you, but he's a playmaker from the top of the key. He can dribble down court, hit you with a crossover, and hit a cutter, or, do a pick and roll with Vlad Golden, which is pretty crazy, right? I don't know if Michigan's going to be able to break down this Houston defense, though. That's going to be a tough one. But like I said, I'm feeling a little bit upset happy. I think Houston's probably the better team, matchup wise here. But I'm going to go with Michigan because I would love to see this Michigan team in the Final Four. They're super fun to watch this year. Give me the Wolverines as a 6 seed to make it to the Final Four here. So we got Auburn, Kentucky, and Michigan so far. Let's see who is going to join them out of this bottom right region. So we got Iowa State as our 1 seed versus either Kansas City or Navy. I think Iowa State beats both those teams pretty easily. I think Iowa State's super good. Top 10 offense, top 10 defense. They have a star on their team in Keyshawn Gilbert, who has really broken out. I think that Curtis Jones is a huge X factor for them and a really good shooter. Tamin Lipsey is a guy who can really slow down the pace or pick the pace up as a point guard. That's what you need. You need a point guard who can control the game. It is like number one thing you want to have on a team that could possibly win the national championship. And they're the best team in the Big 12 by far. Very good team. Iowa State moves on to the second round. Nebraska ball versus Arkansas. I'm going to take Nebraska. I want to see them get their first ever win in March Madness history. They have never won an NCAA tournament game in program history, and they are the only Power 5 team to never do so. I think they get it. They have a good team this year, guys. Look out for Nebraska ball. They are coming. They move on past John Calipari's Arkansas team, who is not a very good shooting team. Nebraska is. Next up, Purdue versus McNeese. We're going to go with McNeese. I think, Purdue's a good team who was battle-tested early. They did take some losses, but they're battle-tested. And McNeese hasn't been that great as a mid-major. Not as good as we thought they were. They don't have as good of a record as they did last year. But I don't think Purdue is all that great. And if you can slow down Braden Smith and his playmaking and, deny Trey Kaufman ran the ball in the post, you got guys like Fletcher Lawyer that really, to be honest, I just don't trust them. I don't trust some of these players on Purdue to be able to come up big. And I know that they, made it to a championship game last year, but they don't have Zach Edey anymore. I could see Purdue, getting back to the Sweet 16 this year. It wouldn't surprise me. But I want to pick some upsets. Give me McNeese as we pick 3 out of 4 12-over-5s this year as of right now. Next up, we got UConn versus Charleston. And Charleston's actually kind of underrated. I don't think they're beating UConn. Give me UConn here to move on. I think UConn's too good. They got Villanova tonight. I'm actually really excited for this matchup because Villanova's favored. Yeah, Villanova's favored against UConn tonight. Excited to see what goes down there. I bet on UConn. We'll see if I lose money. West Virginia versus Vanderbilt. 6 versus 11 team. My team, the West Virginia Mountaineers. Hopefully Tucker DeVries is back from injury by the time we get to March Madness, but that is undisclosed right now, so nobody knows. And I followed the university very closely, very, very closely. Nobody knows if he's coming back this year, so we're gonna assume that he's not. I still think West Virginia wins this game on the backs of the best point guard in the country. Yes, I said it. Javon Small is the best point guard in the country. On the back of him and Amani Hansberry, who can spread the floor. You got Enardo Andre, who's blocking shots like a machine lately. You got players who can stretch the floor like KJ Tenner, Toby Okani, even Sincere Harris, who is the defensive lockdown player, has started hitting his threes. West Virginia would beat Vandy in this matchup. Darren DeVries and Mark Byington. Shout out to these coaches for really turning around these programs and getting them into the tournament at this point if the season starts today. First-year head coaches. Round of applause for them. Illinois versus UTEP. I don't even want to talk about UTEP. Illinois. Illinois is a really hot team right now. I got to take them to move on right here. Next up, we got Baylor versus Dayton. I like Dayton in this matchup. Baylor is a team I've been waiting for them to really heat up. That's a really surprising 7-10 matchup. You would expect both those teams to be a little bit higher seeds, but I like Dayton in this one. You know, they got some good players between Malachi Smith, Enoch Cheeks, Posh Alexander. These are studs at the guard position. And Baylor's got some good players as well, but VJ Edgecombe's just too inconsistent as a freshman. Super good athlete. He's still going to go in the first round of the NBA draft. Jeremy Roach and Norchad Omier could will them to a win or two in the tournament, but they're not the national championship contender like I thought they would be at the beginning of the season. Alabama versus Norfolk State. Norfolk State has been heating up a little bit in their league. I like them getting some love here, making the tournament, but I got to go with Bama. I mean, they're too good, man. Iowa State versus Nebraska ball. Battle of the Midwest. I got to go with Iowa State. I mean, I do really like Nebraska. Showed you some love because you guys are playing fantastic lately. But I don't see you guys beating Iowa State. I just don't see it happening. McNeese versus UConn. I want to pick more upsets. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take McNeese. Why not? UConn fans, you guys have had your run. It is time for McNeese State to get to the Sweet 16. Come on. Yeah, I think UConn is a team. They can make the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, maybe even the Final Four. This year, I don't think that UConn is three-peating. I don't think that they can win the national championship this year. They have some really good players, and Liam McNeely, shout out to him because he has really been carrying this team the way that he's been going off lately. I know that he was actually out last game. I believe it was against Providence, maybe. But they played tonight against Nova. I have to see if Liam McNeely is back, but he has been playing really well. Alex Caravan's still there, of course. Solo Ball has been playing good, but they've been consistent lately, but I feel like this year in March, they're only going to make it to, at the furthest, the Sweet 16. That's just a gut feeling by me. West Virginia versus Illinois. I love my Mountaineers, but Illinois is playing too good right now. I got to take the Illini to the Sweet 16. Kasparis Jakaitis is one of the most underrated freshmen in the country. He's playing phenomenal. And him and Kylan Boswell, they have two really good playmaking point guards now that I feel like that was always Illinois' struggle. You know, they over the past so many years, they haven't had like a really good playmaking point guard. But I think they got a lot of good playmakers this year and just a good team all around. You know, another good freshman, Will Riley. Give me the Illini playing really good basketball lately to get to the Sweet 16. Then we got Dayton versus Alabama. Let's go with some more upsets here. I'm going to go with Dayton, the 10 seed, to knock off the 2 seed Alabama, this is very surprising of a pick, I know, because before Alabama fans get mad at me, in my last bracket, I had Alabama win the entire national championship. And I still think that that's possible. In fact, when the odds were low, I bet on Alabama sports betting to win the national title because I think that they have a chance to this year. They have the team to do it, and their odds weren't high enough. I feel like I was getting good value. That's why I did it. So we'll see, but I do think Dayton is a team that could go on a run. I think they get a little bit of a tough draw here against Alabama as the 2 seed. I think they'll be higher than a 10 seed by the time they get to March Madness, but I like Dayton here, just all around a super solid team. Next up, we got Iowa State versus McNeese. I'm going to go with Iowa State here. I think they end McNeese's run. Just too good of a team. And then we got Illinois versus Dayton. And I'm going to take Dayton to continue all the way to the Elite Eight. I've had Dayton go on runs in the past, and I'm going to do it again because they are a really good team. They've beaten really good teams early like UConn and Marquette. And I like them to, go on a little bit of a run this year. I'm hoping that they get at least up to a 7 or a 6 seed by the time we get to March Madness. I think that they can really take off with something like that. Iowa State versus Dayton. You got some really good matchups, like at the 4 position. Mamovic versus Nick Santos. Some really good players. You got some guard matchups. How does the defense of Enoch Cheeks go against Keyshawn Gilbert? Those are going to be some good matchups in the Elite Eight. That would be an awesome game. I'm going to take Iowa State. I trust their guards, Tamin Lipsey, Keyshawn Gilbert, Curtis Jones. These guys are so good. I got to take the Cyclones here to the Final Four. Final Four set, we got 1 seed, 1 seed, 2 seed, 6 seed. For some of the upsets I had, I wanted to have, somewhat of a higher seed in. We got a 6 seed in there. An 11 seed doesn't make the Final Four every year, unfortunately. I wish they did because I love to see it. And maybe we will see that. Maybe in my next bracket, I'll try to have more of a Cinderella to the Final Four. But for now, this is what we got. And I think these 4 teams are playing good. Even though Kentucky's coming off of a loss to Georgia, I still think they're playing good. That win against Florida was really good. But we got Auburn and Kentucky, 2 teams that are playing really good. They both are in the SEC, and one of them is going to be playing for the national championship. And this is really interesting because I think Janai Broome has a huge game down low, but I also think that the guards of Kentucky, honestly, I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if I could say the guards of Kentucky are better than the guards of Auburn because Auburn has some really good ones. You got Kelly, you got Tahad Pettiford, you got Baker Mazzotta. Some really good players. And Kobe Brea is just that damn good, man. Kobe Brea is that damn good. He can be a game changer, but Janai Broome is a game changer as well. I'm going to go with Kentucky. I like to switch it up a little bit. I feel like I talk a lot on Auburn a lot. Kentucky's a team I can see make it to the championship this year, guys. They're a really good team. They got a team that I think is built for March Madness with guys like Kobe Brea and Jackson Robinson. I feel like those are some solid players that have experience. Yeah, I'm excited about this year's Kentucky team. I think that they're going to make a big run. I'm going to have them in the championship game right now. And then we got Michigan versus Iowa State. It's going to be tough to stop that Danny Wolf offense there with him playing point center. But him in the pick and roll with Vlad Golden, I feel like Iowa State, they have the defense to be able to stop that. It's kind of like Houston did whenever I was picking that matchup. But I wanted to see Michigan to the Final Four, so I picked it. I think Iowa State gets it done here. I think they're too good. And Michigan has some good guards as well. Some really shifty ones too, but they don't compete with Iowa State's guards. So I got Iowa State in the championship versus Kentucky. And this is our championship matchup right here, guys. Kentucky versus Iowa State. And this would be a really fun matchup. This is an interesting one because I could see both these teams winning the championship. There is one stat that I do want to point out, and that is that a first-year head coach has never won a national championship. We seen somebody get close in Hubert Davis. His first year at North Carolina, they were runner-ups to Kansas a few years ago. Can we see Kentucky be runner-ups here? Kind of like that. I think we can. Mark Pope's a really good coach. I'm taking Iowa State here. We've never seen a first-year head coach ever win a national championship. And I like to go off of stats a lot with stuff like that. But I do think that it is possible that they could. I think Iowa State is definitely possible they could, though. They have a really good team. And even though Kentucky has some amazing guards between Lamont Butler, Kobe Brea, Ortega Owe, Jackson Robinson, the list goes on and on, man, this Kentucky team. Andrew Carr is a really good forward who I think is going to have a big role in this run, especially if he can be knocking down his three-point shots. But Iowa State has some really good team. I think that Lipsey, Curtis Jones, and, of course, Gilbert are going to be the key to Iowa State going on this massive run. And they play defense. They look really good. They kind of remind me of that 2020 Baylor team that won the national championship, or I guess it was 2021, where they had guys like Davion Mitchell and Butler. They were a really good team, very good defensively. That was like the best defensive Baylor team we've seen. I think Iowa State has that level of defense, and they have some really good offense and some guards who can play make for their teammates and also shot create for themselves. So I'm really excited for this year's college basketball tournament and just college basketball in general. I'm excited for the games tonight. This is exactly what I'm going to do after I post this video, is go watch me some more basketball. So let me know what you guys think about my Final Four, my national championship matchup, and my champions and my upsets. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Make sure you guys subscribe. If you guys are new, we're going to have more videos just like this where we do fill out an updated version of Joe Lunardi's Bracketology. We're going to have our own personal bracketologies. We're going to have our weekly power rankings out. We're going to have our hot takes videos out. We're going to have all kinds of other college basketball content coming out here soon. So make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are college basketball fans. We're getting close to 6,000. Let's get there. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.